So I have today on Simply Happy Conversations Susanna from the Nordic Mum. She's a Finnish mum with 2 children and living here in Australia on the New South Wales coast. And she has a podcast. She's also a blogger and she is a photographer as well, which we'll have to definitely dive into a little bit more. So welcome, Susanna.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it's so good to have you. I love listening to your podcast and your beautiful interviews you have with amazing people all around the world. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe something that people don't know about you.
Yeah, well, you gave it away in a
Did
nutshell.
I?
I'm from Finland, but I live in Australia. What people don't know about me? Well, I'm a fully qualified pilot. It was my dream to fly planes when I was younger. So when everybody else had Madonna, Michael Jackson, posters on their walls, I had posters of planes in my wall, and I still have this one plane in my bedroom in my parents' house, which I still remember. It's called the Konlinke Marine. It was a marine spotter from the Dutch military. And when we moved to Australia, I knew I was going to make my dream come true, that I want to be a pilot. So I was flying up until I was 38. Oh, no, I wasn't 30, or 32 or 30. 32 weeks pregnant. Oh, by the way, by law, you can actually fly plane longer than you can be a passenger in a commercial plane.
Really?
I
That's
learned that
interesting.
learned that as well. And then went to have my first one in 2012, my son Luke, and then I returned to flying 3 months later while still breastfeeding. So my husband was with the baby at the at the tarmac or waiting at the hangar while I went flying and did my lesson with my instructor, and then I came back. And it wasn't until I found out that the week that I was pregnant with my number two, like a year and a half, or year and a bit later, that I passed my private pilot license. And I told the instructor when we landed, by the way, I'm pregnant again. And the instructor was like, "Oh my God, we just passed you. It was just passed. Thank God." I was like, "Why?" It's like, "I'm so worried when I'm flying you because when you're pregnant that you're gonna have the baby in the plane." He's a man. He doesn't have a wife, so we forgive him. So
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
there you
congratulations. That's fantastic.
go.
And
Thank
so what
you.
about now that the kids are a little bit older? Do you get out?
Um, no, I haven't been out for a very long while. I would love to, but it's one of like those things that it's like when you do it, you have to do it consistently. You can't just go every now and then it's like you get rusty, and you know things change as well. So you have to keep yourself up to date of what is the latest, information, not just about the planes, but the maneuvers and how to get off from the actual airport. So, and it kind of makes me sad that I haven't done anything with it. The idea was when I was getting my private pilot license was that I want to do my commercial pilot license. And I started studying, and I had booked to go and do all the exams and booked to do all the lessons. But I couldn't. I had morning sickness, day sickness, evening sickness, night sickness. So every morning I had to call the airfield and said, "Sorry, I can't come. I'm sick again." Thankfully, the lady who always answered, she was a mother of three, and she was like, "Yeah, I understand." And in the end, I just have to kind of abandon the idea. But I know that I'm a pilot. I know how to fly a plane, and it's not a skill that a lot of people have. And it's kind of in my back that maybe one day I will do something more with it. So yeah.
Definitely, definitely later on when the kids are a bit older, possibly. So tell
Yeah.
us about the Nordic Mum and your journey to developing the business, how long you've had it for?
Yeah, so I had a product business. Taking a step back, I had a product business which I started when my son, my youngest one, was about just born actually. She was not even a year. So this was with 2015, and it was the Finnish baby walk box, which is like the box that the Finnish government gives all the mothers in Finland, which has the mattress so the baby can sleep in the box, but then it has all these goodies that the baby has for the first 6 to 9 months of his life. So I started a business here. And 2 years into the business, I realized that we have to invest more money for it to make profitable. So it was making money, but not enough for it to be
Mm.
feasible. And I was having, I would say, a little burnout because I was so desperately trying to make the business work that I have forgotten to take care of myself. And midst of thing, I started the podcast because I had like creative need to express myself, and I just felt that the business just wasn't, doing anything for me. So I started the podcast. I didn't have a website, I had nothing. I just plugged my iPhone headset to my laptop and started recording my thoughts. So if you go and listen to the Nordic Mum podcast, the first episode is about myself, about my family. And then I was like, oh, this is boring just talking on my own. I need to invite people to my podcast as a guest. So I started doing that. So I started recording women who were in business as well, who might have started at the same time and that I've made friends over social media or whatever. And I started recording it. And actually, it was episode 52 when I actually had a website up. And from there onwards, I only concentrate talking about Scandinavian, Nordic lifestyle, how the Nordics live their life. And I have website and all the episodes and the blog post there. So that's how it also started. And that's where it actually is at the moment. So I don't have business as such. I don't sell anything except, I'm writing and producing content that I then use myself in my podcast and on my socials and on my website.
And is there something behind? What about your writing that you're doing as well?
Yeah, so there's two things. So I talked earlier before we started recording
Yeah.
about my book. So I've also have started writing with other publications.
Mm.
So I just got one which was about the slow living and minimalism. That was in a publication called No Sidebar. So it was published there in their website. And idea for me is to get more into writing to other publications. But the other thing is my book. So I'm 22,000 words in for my book, which is going to be hopefully once I get to 30,000, I can start editing it. And it's about Nordic lifestyle, about how to take it slow and how the Nordic people have still managed to kind of hold on to that simple lifestyle and living like with their means and not being too greedy and too in the materialistic way. Because I find that when I go to Finland, and go back home, it's always kind of wake up call. It's that, you don't have to be in the rat race for the next thing and buying the next thing. And it's more about just enjoying life as it is. And that's what I'm trying to capture on this book in terms of, what the Nordic lifestyle is and how you can capture it and live the same way wherever you are.
Yeah. So maybe share with us what are some of the top tips that you would recommend for people to start to incorporate like the Nordic way of life and slow down?
One of the main thing is that we are more connected with nature. So we always, no matter what the weather is, go outside. So when I moved to Australia, when it rains, nobody's outside. Everybody's just like, where's everybody? I'm the only crazy woman with two very wet kids in the playground, and there's nobody else there. So it's about connecting with the nature. And I know like we have beautiful beaches and lush rainforest in this country, but I find that people just don't enjoy them as much that they perhaps could. So I think connecting yourself with the nature is number one. Like for us Scandinavian Nordic people, it is like a must that we are connected no matter when we live. And there's a word called friluftsliv, which means about outdoor living. And outdoor living, you go no matter what the weather is, you still go and you still enjoy it. So that's my one thing. The other thing is that enjoying the moments, which comes for the word of hugge, so hugga, who
As
meek
Australian
Viking.
accents would say.
Yes, Huga,
Huga.
Meek Viking, who wrote the book about how to live it with cozy. And Huga means cozy contentment. And that's about enjoying the moments that you have. We don't have to go and create these huge things and think about it. Oh, for me to be happy and content with life, I need all these things and I need to make this huge thing about it. But it's just about like having a cup of something hot and just looking out from your window, that there is a moment, and enjoying that can bring you so much more pleasure than getting all those things and buying new things and thinking that you have to create something more than what it actually is.
So maybe for people who have never heard of hugge, could you like expand a little bit more? Give a few more examples. I love the night, like a light, and how it sort of creates the atmosphere. I'm pretty sure it was your podcast, and you were talking to she lives in Germany now, and she's from Finland.
Yes,
Yeah,
Megan.
yeah,
Megan.
yeah.
Yeah. So Megan is married to a Finn. She's actually
That's right.
American, and they live in Germany. Yeah. So hygge, however you want to say the word, means contentment. So I did an episode recently about how you can have it even in summertime. So how
I
you
love
can
that.
be content and it's not about creating any. So for example, for us here in Australia, it could be just that you go for a bike ride with your friends and you just have stop to look around you and you stop there to explore the surrounding nature or look at your kids playing in the woods, and that is their contentment. People usually think contentment and hygge, the cozy moment, is drinking coffee, glazing into the fire, and having music in a background or reading a book. All that is, coziness, and that is contentment, and that is hygge as well. But you don't have to have that. It can be just having a barbecue with your friends and just sitting down once we're not in lockdown, sitting down and with your friends and just having this meal and having this cozy atmosphere and just sharing your thoughts about what's happening in the world and what is happening in your life. And that there is cozy, that is contentment and hygge as well.
That's beautiful. And I will put a link to the summer episode because I thought that was beautiful, because to me it was like really relatable, because they're things that we do in Australian culture. So for you moving to Australia, have you noticed what sort of things do you see as similar between the two cultures?
Do you know what? I found that living in Australia is much like living in the Nordics, because I lived in London for nearly 10 years before I moved to Australia. And I find that I never really connected with the UK culture as I did with the Australian culture. I think there's a lots of similarities. We are more in synergy of who we are, and we are more kind of laid back and relaxed. Aussies are maybe a little bit too relaxed for my liking. The no worries policy, and when they reply you no worries, you're like, well, does it mean yes or no?
Yeah, yeah.
So almost a too much of the kind of, too much of you know being relaxed. But I think we are very similar in that way. We both like to, you know we both like to explore the world, and we like to, talk about life, and we like to explore, looking at things and debating about things. So there's a lots of similarities. And I find that because people are all over the place in Australia, we are lots of people who are from different cultures and they have a different cultural background. So it's kind of like Europe, all these things, all these different cultures here. So it kind of made me maybe feel more contentment here than it ever did in UK. Although I lived in London, which is like the metropolitan city, and it has all these different cultures. But I found London was just so busy. People are always in a go. It was too busy, and there was no enjoyment in life as much as I found in Australia.
Yeah, and I'm sure that even the connection with nature is something that's similar. Like my family are from Holland. My dad was born over there and came to Australia. And I've been back there several times, and I just found, I don't know, I even felt like I'm at home when I went back there. That connection, nature, and so many things. Actually, it's interesting. Some of the things I think you talk about on your podcast, I'm like, oh, I remember that from a child in my own family, my own like immediate family, or even from my dad's family. There's lots of crossover that obviously from Europe that make their way
Yeah.
down or up, from the countries. So what about, tell us the journey of then coming to Australia. So how long have you lived in Australia for now?
So I arrived 2008. So I was working with a corporation in London, and they said, okay, we have a job going in Sydney, but before you come to Sydney, you need to go to Auckland for a period of time. And I was like, ooh, and like Lord of the Rings and all that was in my mind. It's like, yay, oh, it's a tough luck, but yeah, I will take it. So I went to Auckland for like 4 months. I lived there with a girlfriend of mine and just loved it. The country, it was beautiful. And I was actually offered a job to stay in Auckland. And I had to call my husband, my boyfriend at the time, was like, oh, what do you want to do? Do you want to come to Auckland or do you want to go to Sydney? And he's like, oh, this is difficult choice. But then he was like, we've already sent everything to Sydney, so we have to go there. So we moved to Sydney. And 2008, I worked in a corporate world. I was a global quality director for this big multinational company. I traveled the world. I was 2 weeks in Papua New Guinea, back for a week. Then I was gone for 5 weeks to Singapore, back for a week. Then I was gone for around the world. While I was pregnant with my first one, I went around the world, I think 2 or 3 times,
Wow.
flying from one point to another, business meetings and conferences. And it was very exciting lifestyle. But after I had my son 2012, I knew I was never going to go back to that company. I loved them. They were the best thing ever happened to me. Without them, I wouldn't be here. But I just knew that that lifestyle and that kind of just life wasn't for me anymore. But I've loved, Australia, and I still do. And my husband is like, it's like UK, but it's more relaxed and you can, go on your life more freely than you perhaps can in UK. And I was like, well, I think it's more to that than just being like in the UK. But he's a Brit, so he's a Pommy.
Okay.
So we excuse that for him.
Oh, that's beautiful. So have you got any plans? Like, did you have plans to go back at all, or you're happy staying here in Australia?
We were really like open when we came. We were thinking maybe we stay for a few years, then a few
Yeah.
years turned to 3 years, 4 years, and 5 years. And it's just like we were having really good jobs, both of us, and we were just enjoying the life without children, before children. And when the children came along, it was just comparing what we would have in UK versus
Yeah.
what we would have in Australia. You just can't measure it. We have this beautiful house. I'm looking to see over from this computer behind you, and I'm like, you could not have this
No.
in where we were. And even though we miss family and friends, we just know that the quality of life is so much better here. So, no, we didn't have a plan to go. But now that the kids are old, I'm due talk with my husband. What about moving back there? But now with COVID and everything,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just not an option at the moment.
Yeah. So it's actually making that decision for you right now to
Yeah,
just
yeah,
enjoy where you are.
absolutely.
Apart from obviously remote learning.
Mm.
So tell us about your own day, like whether you have a morning ritual or a night ritual that helps you relax, or start off on the right foot for your day, or maybe you just have one or you have the other or both.
Well, I was thinking about this and I was like, well, my morning starts so early. Like sometimes it's 5:30, 5 o'clock, because my kids are like bling. They're very morning persons. And I have no choice except get up with them. And we're probably out from the house like 7 o'clock this morning. We were at the beach walking the dog. So that once we got the dog, about a Mother's Day, it was a Mother's Day gift,
Oh,
not sure
nice.
for whom. So mommy is there walking with the dogs, the three dogs, my two sons and the fairy four-legged dog. So I'm walking them at the beach, and that's like my morning routine. But I firmly believe it's the evening routine that it's more important,
Mm,
because the way you end your day is more important to me than the way you start the day. Because if you end your day badly and you don't have enough sleep, you're, sorry, I'm going to swear, you're screwed when the next day comes. So my thing is that you have to be able to finish your day the right way. So for me it is, after the kids have gone to bed, I usually have a cup of tea or something to drink, and I read a book before I go to sleep. So that is for me, that kind of get my mind out of things. Reading a book is really important. And then, making sure I don't have devices in the bedroom. So they're all in the living room or the kitchen. So I don't wake up and like start looking at it first thing.
yeah.
And that is for important, and making sure that I don't go to sleep too early, because I've had the habit, particularly now in a lockdown, I've fallen asleep next to my kids in their bed, and then I wake up like, I go to sleep like 7 o'clock and I wake up like 10 o'clock. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. I'm so bad now. So yeah, so having that kind of downtime before you go to sleep, and having enough sleep which is uninterrupted, whether it's 5 o'clock that you wake up, but just making sure you have enough
Mm.
hours to sleep, to me is more important than the morning routine, which of course I have routine, and it includes my hot drink on my Moomin mug.
I do- That's gorgeous. Oh, thank that. I love that tip of the night routine. And it's like that mindset, isn't it? That
Mm.
if we finish the day on the right foot, we'll be able to start the day as well in a positive mindset. What a beautiful routine though, the morning, to be able to take your dog to the beach every morning. We're not far, but it's like a, 20-minute drive. So yes, I'm very jealous. And one day I would like to live closer to the beach and just have that, to be able to step out and walk the dog out there. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd love for you to share your podcast and your website, because also on your website you have some downloadables, the dessert ebook that people can grab as well. Do you want to share how they can connect with you?
Yes, so the best place is to go the nordicmum.com, and as Narelle said, there is a downloadable. So if you want to jump in my emails, you can get Nordic Desserts ebook, which is like 10, 11, 12 maybe desserts that you can make at home, and that's quite popular with people. And then you have all my podcasts, so nordicmum.com/podcast, and most of the podcasts have actually a blog post, so some people prefer to read it, others want to listen to it. And there's also, I've started doing separate blog posts, which I'm trying to do blogs about more than just about Nordic lifestyle, but it's kind of generic stuff as well, but that's kind of ongoing. And then of course you can find me on all the socials as the Nordic Mum, and Instagram and Twitter, and then on Facebook, Nordic Mum Susanna.
Oh, beautiful. And I'm sure people will love, especially, I just think your interviews are amazing, but your tips when it's just you talking as well are great and relate really well to our Australian culture and are easy to implement. So, yes, I definitely highly recommend people jumping over and having a listen to your podcast as well. Thank you so much, Susanna, for joining me today and sharing your tips about slow living as well.
A pleasure.
Thank you.